know when you're live.
You're live.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to call the March 22nd, 2021 Village of Lake Park Park and Recreation meeting to order. And we have no one in council chambers and no one has sent in anything for public comment this evening. So we have no public comment. Sheree sent out in your packet the minutes from the February Park and Rec meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as presented?
This is Will. I make a motion.
Okay, Will has made the motion. Is there a second?
Jeremy, I'll second.
Okay, Jeremy has seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by stating your name and A or nay.
Will. Aye.
Jeremy, aye.
And Julian, are you with us?
I think maybe he was having the same issues I'm having.
No, okay. I hear the barking. I didn't know if that was Julian or not. Okay. Well, we have a majority on the minutes, so minutes will be approved as presented. Also, the agenda was sent out for this evening. Are there any requested changes to the agenda?
Mayor, I was on the call. This is why I was a little bit late jumping on here. I do have something I'd like to discuss under pools. It probably could fall in there with tags. It's basically just a discussion, but if you wanted to add an item, I would entitle it pool access by officials.
Okay. Let's insert that. Well, let's just put it down there as item number D.
Okay.
Under 10. Pool access by
Yes, sir.
officials.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. Any other requested changes? If not, is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Jeremy, I'll make the
This is
motion.
Will.
Okay, Jeremy has made the motion. Is there a second?
This is Will. I'll second.
Will has seconded. Okay. All those in favor signify by stating your name and A or nay.
Will. Aye.
Jeremy,
Julian,
aye.
aye. And Julian, aye.
Okay. So the agenda has been approved. Moving on to item number 5, council actions. There was only one item for council approval, and that was to approve the quote from Lucas Landscaping for $1,175 for the Connie's Pond erosion. That was approved by council. Moving on to the budget report. The budget, really, we're in pretty good shape all the way around as far as expenses. And the detailed report was sent out to you. Are there any questions on the budget where we stand as of the end of February? Okay, moving on to the budget for fiscal year 2021, 2022. Just started putting this together and trying to be conservative in both expected revenue and expenses for the coming year. We are hoping that things will start returning to normal, so that we might see an increase in our, primarily the pool memberships. Hoping that we might be able to increase our expenditures a little bit. You see on this slide from fiscal 19/20, 2021, and then projected 21-22, both in revenue and expenses. I will be sending this out to you shortly. Council has the budget workshop in early May, but our finance officer would like to get the proposed budgets as soon as possible. So would like to kind of put this together before our next Park and Rec meeting. We can always make a few changes at the very end, but I'd like to send this out to you and get your feedback. If there's something that you would like to see added into the budget, if you think we're over or under on revenue or expenses, would appreciate your feedback on that. Pretty much have the same line items on the budget as we had this year. Under park maintenance, I have added $2,000 for renovations to the Founders Park gazebo. That's in need of some painting as well as some masonry repair. But other than that, items are pretty much the same as we've had this year, and have tweaked the expenses and revenue just a little bit based on where we currently stand this year and what we might expect for next year. So again, I appreciate your feedback on that. I'll be sending that out to you in the next few days. Any questions or comments on next year's budget?
Negative.
Okay. Moving on to events. Angie, you want to talk about that?
Sure. The hygiene kit drive is going really well. We're getting a lot of good positive response. We've collected so much material so far that we are going to work with volunteers this week to go ahead and start sorting. And then I will catch up with the rest of the volunteers next week that wanted to help make the individual kits that we'll take to the shelter. So it's going really well. Lots and lots of toothpaste and toothbrushes. So could use a little more OTC items and shampoo, stuff like that. But overall, it's going well. Any help is greatly appreciated. I'm going to take those donations to the shelter either April 1st or April 2nd, whichever works best for their schedule, and we will wrap that up. The American Red Cross Blood Drive is May the 9th. We're going to continue to schedule the bus as much as possible. That's just very easy for the donors to use and very easy for us to manage and not incur any traffic in the community center at this time, because I know we're not open right now. But May the 9th from 1 to 5:30. It is by appointment only. That's probably the new standard until further notice. We do have blood drives in September and October planned, August and October, but I'll talk about those dates when it's a little closer. Just want to get through the summer. And litter sweep is back to you, David.
Yeah, we've had a request from the Union County litter sweep about participating with them on April 10th, 17th, or 24th in a litter sweep. They said they would not be providing any support for the Village of Lake Park as far as they didn't have it on their schedule. Excuse me, I'm putting the information up on our display in the room because we've got a guest this evening. So the question before the commission is whether or not we want to participate with them. Couple thoughts on that. Foster Lake and Pond does a pretty normal job of cleaning up around our ponds. Lucas does a pretty good job of cleaning up our parks and common areas. We don't have a lot of litter in general around the community on the streets, with the exception of probably Lake Park Road, which catches a lot of people coming and going into the village. Faith Church Road, which again, people coming into the village or passing through. And of course, that's an NCDOT road. And then the back entrance on Carroll Avenue, which is primarily between Beverly and 3rd Avenue, just outside of Lake Park. My question is whether or not it justifies setting up a formal litter sweep to try and get a bunch of volunteers. We've had a few people that have helped clean up Lake Park Road and the Carroll Avenue outside of Lake Park. We were looking at doing the same thing on Faith Church Road. I've got another individual that has expressed some interest, saying he works for Wells Fargo, and Wells Fargo gives him credit for community service. So I think if we had one or two other individuals, we could probably set this up and just do it without making it a formal event. But here I'm kind of looking for feedback from the commission.
As your event coordinator, I am not in town on April the 10th. Girls on the Run is April 24th. So that might be a good date to have a later sweep and maybe walk through the parks and catch a granola wrapper or whatever that flies out of the trash. That might be an opportunity to have more to pick up than you typically would. My thought.
Are you saying after the Girls on the Run?
Yeah, after Girls on the Run.
Yeah. The Garden Club has a plant sale on April 10th, and I'm going to be tied up with that. So that date is kind of out. So the dates don't fit in real well. Any other thoughts from anybody else?
Hey, Mayor, this is Julian. I guess I would look at it as with the other events that Angie has coordinated with the volunteers to clean in the area, in the community. I would defer to Angie's schedule and how she sets it up as far as with volunteerism in the community. And with the efforts already in place, a couple more volunteers here and there, and I would defer to Angie with setting up a volunteer schedule and allowing youth who need community service hours or adults who want to have a community engagement day to step forward.
Okay, if everyone's okay with it, I will get back to the Union County group and tell them that we will not be participating with them, but we will be doing it on our own. Is that okay?
I'm good with
Yep.
that.
Well, I agree.
Okay. Very good. Moving on to item number 8, recreational facilities. I want to thank Will, who this last weekend was over in Founders Park replacing the chains on not only the youth swings, but also the baby swings. So I didn't get a picture of the new chains and of Will out there working on that, but appreciate you working on that and getting that done. Also wanted to mention a few weeks back, we did have possible exposure on playgrounds in Russell Park to COVID-19. And I want to thank Julian for disinfecting the playground equipment, not only in Russell Park, but he went around and disinfected the other parks as well. So I really appreciate that, Julian. I don't know, Julian, if you had a chance to look at the playground mulch when you were out there. We do have $5,000 in our budget to refresh the playground mulch. What I've seen, it in general doesn't appear to be too bad. But Julian, what are your thoughts on that?
I was going to say in general, all of them are okay. Looking at Founders Park, probably if would need a little bit more attention around the edge, but all of them are okay. Typical wear pattern up underneath where the kids would step off into the swings. So maybe an opportunity to spread it out and even it out a little bit more. But in general, okay. I can support a little bit at Founders and maybe see how spreading it out some of the others, or even just a little topping off, so to speak.
Okay. I'm not sure how far that goes, but I'm thinking maybe if we ask council for approval for a couple $1,000 in playground mulch, that might give us enough to refresh. I don't know. Anybody have a feeling for that? Better feel for that than I do?
I don't know how far it would go, Mayor. So
Well, why don't we, if you're okay with it, let's have a motion to request approval for up to $2,000 in playground mulch. We'll take that to council.
this is Julian. I make the motion to request up to 2,000 for playground mulch.
This is Will. I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor signify by stating your name and yea or nay.
Will, aye.
Jeremy, aye.
Julian, I.
Motion is carried. All right, moving on to facilities. We've been going month by month as far as whether or not we want to rent any of our indoor or outdoor facilities. Things, do seem to be getting better in general, but I think we need to make a decision as to what we want to do for the month of April. Any thoughts on that, especially from staff?
I vote that we do not rent for April.
Okay. Sheree, any thoughts? Do you concur?
The biggest concern that I have is that we're just not going to be, right now, we could do up to 25 people. But I mean, we already battled people telling us from the, in the past that, I'm just going to have 25, 30 people and them have, 40 people. So, I mean, I certainly agree with Angie that we should wait through April. And we're getting, more and more people are being vaccinated, which is helping. I just don't know.
Does everybody concur that we should hold off and not do rentals for the month of April?
This is Will. I agree with that decision.
Okay.
This is Julian. I agree.
Okay. Jeremy, any thoughts?
No, sir. I would certainly yield to staff. I think their safety is what's important, so that's fine.
I agree. Related to that, the basketball courts, technically they are still closed. The sign still says the courts are closed, but we've not only been getting pressure from the community, but kids have been out there even with the nets chained up. They've been out there shooting basketballs and volleyballs and other things into the nets, and then using the traffic cones to poke the balls out once they get stuck up there. So a few weeks ago, I did take the chains off the nets, but the sign is still up that says the basketball courts are closed. Do you want to officially leave the courts closed, or do you want to go ahead at this point and take the sign down and just open it up? What are your thoughts on that?
Mayor, this is Julian. Is the sign up today? Because I rode by the park today. I didn't see the sign. So I didn't know.
I believe it is. I walked by there a couple times today. I think the sign is still up on the goal post on Krebs Circle.
Okay.
I know it was up this morning first thing, but I don't know if it, sometimes we have people with lots of time on their hands.
Well, that's why I was wondering. I went by the park. I didn't know if the guys had moved it before they started shooting, because there were kids out there shooting baskets today. So
Yeah, it's been used quite extensively. Like the word got out pretty quick that the nets were open. So it has been used. I mean, I have somewhat mixed feelings about it, but you know, it's kind of great to see kids out there playing and making use of the courts. We certainly are not over the hump as far as COVID-19 is concerned, and not only locally but nationally. But we may be to the point where it's probably okay to leave them open or open them up. A lot of the municipalities around here have open basketball courts indoors where they can monitor, you know, the number of people on the courts, which we don't have that ability to do. But I would probably lean towards just going ahead and taking the sign down and opening up the courts, but I'd like your feedback on that.
I agree with you, Mayor. I think that leaving the signs up and allowing them to play anyway, just by, you know, kind of defeats the whole purpose of us posting a closed sign. It's there, but we're not enforcing it, but yet we are allowing them to play. There are so many high school sports that are open. I did see people last weekend. There was enough on there to where they were nice and they split the court. One played one end and one team played the other end. So I think there's a lot of respect for space. I think people are trying to be smart about what they're doing. So I think just take the sign down and let them play.
Okay. Does anybody object to that?
this is Julian. I don't object. That's why I went by the park, by there today, just to kind of see what was going on. If we're not going to enforce it, I think we definitely need to take the sign down. And yeah, that's it.
Okay. Any other
The
comments?
only addition, this is Will, the only addition I would have to that is, you know, right now I believe is up to 25 people. So just putting a sign that says that, you know, up to 25. I mean, it's not, it doesn't mean that we have to be out there every day monitoring, but at least we're covered as far as if it does get rowdy and there's 50 people out there, you know, we can point to the sign, kick 25 people off. But I'd say definitely it needs to open up.
Okay. Angie, can you laminate a sign that says maximum occupancy 25 people at any one time or something to that effect?
I can laminate up to 11 by 17. This is as big as I can go.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Will do.
Okay. All right. Very well, moving on. At one point, we had a bench down on Normandy Pond off Logan Circle. There's a walkway that goes down to the pond. It is no longer there. We did have a request from a resident down that area to put a bench back. We have $2,000 in our capital expense budget, and we bought a Charleston battery bench last year, and the cost for the bench plus shipping was just under $500. Be my recommendation to go ahead and put a bench back down there at the end of that walkway. But again, would like your thoughts on that, comments?
This is Will. I've walked that area a few times, and yeah, a bench down there would be nice. I'm all for it.
Okay. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Jeremy, I agree.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion to purchase the Charleston Battery bench for that location?
Mayor, question though, that would be on the ground, or are we looking at putting that on a concrete pad?
Well, right now there is no concrete pad down there. I guess the question is, do we want to put a pad there at the end of that walkway off to the side or at the very end? Previously, it was just located on the ground towards the end of the walkway. To install a pad down there is probably going to depend upon if we could work it in with some other concrete work, but probably would be in the $500 to $750 range to add a pad down there.
Mayor, this is Will. If I'm given some dimensions, I've got a job right there on Logan where I've got a vendor. Anything concrete is a vendor. They're going to be doing a driveway replacement for me. He's going to be like 2 houses away from that area. So if I give him some dimensions, I can have him at least throw us a price.
Okay. Yeah, if they're working down there, it probably wouldn't be that much extra to do it. And we can pull the dimensions off. For example, we put a new pad in down on Veterans Pond for a bench down there. We could use that dimension. So yeah, I'd be in favor of that.
Okay, yeah, I'll go measure the one on Veterans Pond, and that there is just a standard 4-inch deep.
Yes.
Okay, I will ask him.
Okay.
Now I just need the exact location for it. The gentleman is not working on my project till early next week, so we've got time.
Okay. Yeah, and it probably will take 3 to 4 weeks to get the bench also. So I guess the motion could be to go ahead and purchase a Charleston Battery bench and install a pad, or you want to wait for the pad till next month?
I'd say for both items, not to exceed amount.
Okay. Why don't we say not to exceed $950, something like that?
That sounds reasonable.
Okay. So need a motion for that?
This as well. I'll make a motion for up to $950 for the battery bench and the concrete pad.
Do you have a second?
Mr. Jeremy, I'll second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for a bench and a pad at Normandy Pond not to exceed $950. Although, any discussion on that? If not, all in favor, signify by stating your name and A or nay.
Will, hey.
Jeremy, aye.
Julian, I.
Motion is carried. Moving on to pressure washing. Typically every late April, early May, we pressure wash playground equipment and other things such as sidewalks, benches, things of that nature. Just wanted to get your suggestions on this. If you have any vendors that you would recommend Splish Splash has done a lot of work, uh, residential work in the village. I think there may be some other vendors as well. Byram Pressure Washing, who used to do all of this, is pretty much out of business. So I'm thinking I would contact Splish Splash and ask them for a quote for all the playgrounds. I know there's a lot of benches that are looking kind of dingy, so we might want to add those. Also, I noticed the east corner of Matheson Square where the bricks are and the planters are, that's really looking dingy over there. So those are some of the items. Oh, the gazebo in Matheson Square definitely needs pressure washing. So those are some of the items that would like to get a quote on. Is there anything else that anybody has noticed?
Over there on Faith Church Road, where the entrance to the neighborhood is, on that brickwork,
Churchill Pond?
Churchill, yeah. That entrance, we probably need to look at that.
Okay. Does anybody have any other vendors that I should contact?
I've got a gentleman that has contacted me. I'll have to look and see. Let me see if I can come up with his card. He was in here about a year ago. So let me see. I'll check on that.
Okay. All right.
Make sure he has his own tank.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Any other comments on pressure washing? Okay. Moving on to item number 10, pools and tennis courts. We need a motion to approve $450 for Sheree to go ahead and order key tags for the pool.
Jeremy, I'll make a
You will.
motion to approve 450.
Okay, Jeremy has made the motion. Will, is that a second?
Yes.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor signify by stating your name and your name.
Will, I.
Jeremy, aye.
Julie and I.
Motion is carried. We've had some chipping of the surface on the tennis courts. And I think because there were some chips already there, I think the kids got out there one weekend and started picking at it and pulling up everything that they could find that was loose. So we've got 3 spots just inside the gate that are missing their surface layer. I asked Sheree to go ahead and order the patch, tennis court patch, and it just came in today. Will, were you involved in doing some repairs a year or so back?
I was.
I'm not asking you to volunteer. I'm just looking for some suggestions and guidelines on how difficult or easy that is to put down and any recommendations.
Let's see. What I laid down was more for like
Right.
themes,
Yeah.
but it wasn't that hard to lay down. It proved difficult getting it out of the container than anything else. And whatever is used to spread it, this is the same material, yeah, that stuff, you basically got to chisel it off the tool because once it dries, it's rock hard.
Good. And I'm thinking we would have to purchase maybe a squeegee, like for spreading asphalt on a driveway or something like that. And
Yeah, for that much that I'm looking at there on the pictures, yeah, that would definitely need to be something much bigger than I had.
yeah. Okay.
Where are we at on the capital outlay for that, Mayor? How much do we have out? How many years have we saved for that? And what's the cost in general?
I know we have saved at least 3 years at 10,000 a year, so we've got a least 30,000 saved. The estimate to replace or redo the complete tennis courts was around $60,000. Was hoping that we could get maybe one more year out of it, then we would have 40,000, and then if we had to pull, 20,000 in our, or put 20,000 in our budget at that point, it wouldn't be that difficult to handle.
Are all of those black chips, that's chips, what I'm seeing?
The black spots is where they have pulled off the surface layer. And then the debris around those black spots is what they picked at. And I cleaned that all up. That's all gone. So what's left is what you see are the black spots where they've removed the surface layer.
Okay.
And it's just over by the gate. It's not on the actual tennis courts playing area. So I think at this point, we could patch this and, we'd be fine, for right now. What are you thinking?
I just was curious. I was actually going to add, before this even came about, I was going to question that at budget time just to see where we were at with that. I know I've seen several comments from people that actively use the tennis courts. Just asking when did we think we would resurface it totally? And I just was curious.
Yeah.
But I'll be glad to help. I'll be glad to help whoever's going to do it.
Okay, good. That was my next question. I was looking for volunteers.
Yeah, this is Will. I mean, I was there before, so I don't mind doing it again.
Okay. All right. We'll get some nice warm weekend. Maybe we can make short work of it out there.
Yeah, it says it has to be dry. The tennis courts have to be completely dry, and then it's got to stay dry for at least 48 hours after you apply.
Okay. All right.
Correct.
Okay, good.
And then, Jeremy, didn't we modify the agenda under key tags on the pool? Jeremy, didn't you?
No, we added
I
it
think
as
you added D.
item number
Okay.
D. Yeah, so we haven't gotten to that yet.
All right.
Okay. The 2 gallons of patch that we bought came to a little less than $200. This is a FYI. We finally did get our timer installed on the tennis court light. He did purchase the wrong timer. We had asked for a 10-minute, 20, 30, 1 hour, I believe it was. And he installed the wrong one, but he will replace that and put in what we had requested. We have not made any announcement on this and wanted to bring it before Park and Rec Commission just to let you all know that it's out there, it's installed and is working before we make a public announcement. It is installed in parallel to the other timer, which is a time of day timer. Basically we cannot cut the lights off at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock and override what somebody might go up and set this timer to. So it's going to be on the honor system that somebody comes up there at 8:30 at night. They still have to leave the courts at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock in the summertime. So, any questions on that?
So the main timer is not going to cut it out at 9 or 10.
No, the electrician said he couldn't put them in series. Not sure why, but he said he could not, putting those 2 timers in series would not work. So that was our original intent, that the time of day timer would override anything that somebody punched in on this timer. But that's not the way it is installed per the electrician. All right, let's go on to number D then, the pool access by officials. Jeremy?
Yes, sir. So Councilman Scaldera called me. Literally, I was headed home for this meeting, so I didn't talk to him at length. I heard him out. I got a gist of what he was telling me, and I told him I would bring it up to Park and Rec tonight. It's my understanding his intentions was to propose to council next month that any elected official have access to the pool, basically for use of the pool. And his reasoning was, when he's been up there, I only went a couple times myself last year. I think Joe probably went more than any of us. I don't know that for sure, I'm speculating. He said when he was there, it's all business. There's really no relaxation. It's everybody's telling him what's wrong with the pool or what's good with the pool. And in his mind, he thought, well, it's a great place for council to hear what's right and what's wrong from the constituents of the community. And so he thought council members should be able to just show up and go in and utilize the pool. I don't disagree with him. I probably would take it a step further, which is why I said by officials. I would almost think it's probably the same for anybody that's on the Park and Rec Commission. They're making the decisions pretty much wholeheartedly for what's happening with the pool and the hours and the things. So Joe, I guess at the end, when he wasn't sure whether this had to be approved by Park and Rec or if council, if he brings it up at council, if it's purely a council decision and that's what council can implement and go with, or if it needed to be discussed and approved by Park and Rec. So I would open it up for discussion and just see what the Park and Rec Commission itself thinks. And then if so desired, we can make a motion to move forward. If not, we can defer to Councilman Scaldera at the council meeting or whatever.
Well, you're right. It should come up to Park and Rec first for discussion and recommendation.
Sure.
I guess when you first said that, I misunderstood. I thought you were saying that council should have access to the pool at any time, even off hours.
No.
I think what you're saying is Joe is requesting that council members not have to pay pool membership.
Correct. Again, this was all the 30 minute conversation. I don't think at all he's thinking family membership. I think he's talking just the elected official. And then as I thought about it, after I hung up and I was waiting to jump on the meeting here, I would, I'm not at all against what he's saying, but I almost feel like Park and Rec's involved so heavily that I would not be against anybody that's appointed the Park and Rec Commission, also being allowed to go in and utilize the pool. Clearly, yeah, within the confines of the posted hours and following all the rules and whatnot. So, yeah.
And are you thinking of extending that to the family members or just the?
No, I wouldn't have any. Again, I'm not speaking for Joe. He's not on here. I would not have any intention of extending that to family members. No, just the commission and council members. The elected and appointed officials, I guess, would be the correct terminology. And again, I'm just here for discussion at this point.
Yeah. I guess my initial reaction is that I would not be in favor of that, but haven't really had a chance to give it much thought and would like to get some other comments from other commissioners and staff.
My question is that covered as a kickback under our ethics that we take? Isn't that considered receiving something for free, receiving a membership? I don't know. Ethics came to my mind, my ethics training that we have to take. Shuri?
I think because the town owns that, that's probably wouldn't be an issue. I'm not sure, that though we wouldn't have to, so if it was just the elected officials, and Jeremy, I'm going to use you in an example, and I'm going to assume that you are 55 years old for the sake of this discussion, even though I don't think you are, but I'm going to assume. So at 55, a membership for someone is $95. So I do think that Cheryl would probably, that would be considered a benefit, just like if you get a company car or anything else. I think that that would have to be part of your W-2 at the end of the year. So that would be my question, would be how does that impact your salaries? Not your stipends. And for Park and Rec, does that mean that Park and Rec members would now be since they're receiving payment, would they be getting a W-2? But that would be a financial question for Cheryl.
My other concern is perception from the rest of the residents, whether there would be any ill feelings, I guess, from regular residents.
Well, when you start, if Park and Rec is receiving a benefit, and granted it's a Park and Rec benefit, then other people that volunteer and do things for the village, such as your Board of Adjustments or Planning Board or your Communication Commission, you might create a snowball effect or possibly some frustration. That's just, I don't know.
Yeah, and again, Joe didn't even mention Park and Rec, and I didn't get into that discussion with him. It just, as I processed what he had told me, the Park and Rec piece of it is coming from me, not from Joe. Again, Joe, I'm sure he will speak for himself that when he decides to bring it up, I'm just told him I'd broach the subject tonight. And again, I'm the one that added the Park and Rec Commission.
Mhm.
This is Julian. Not really understanding the intent of the total ask and the purpose behind it. I heard the words and I understood the words, but I don't understand how it needed to occur in that manner as far as getting feedback from people that you're here to serve. So I think there are other ways to do it, and just not knowing the full context of everything, I would defer a full answer, yes or no right now. Just need to understand better the context.
Yeah, and it might be good to hear directly from Joe what his thinking is on that. I mean, if he'd like to bring it up to council, that's fine.
Sure.
Or if he'd like to bring it up, we've got time since pool doesn't open for a couple more months.
Right. Yeah.
If he'd like to attend the next Park and Rec meeting and present his proposal, yeah, that would give us some time to think about it too, and maybe get some of our thoughts together.
Sure.
Okay. Is that okay, Jeremy?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. All right, let's move on to item number 11, the Normandy Pond fishing status. Mr. and Mrs. Rosenau are, I believe, still on the Zoom meeting with us. John, are you there?
We are still here. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you for hanging in there with us. The Rosenau's brought at the last P&R meeting a proposal for the second time to change the fishing status of Normandy Pond to no fishing except for the residents that live around the immediately around the pond. Before we get into that discussion again, I would like to point out that Stormwater is in the process of having Eagle Engineering do a survey and putting together a request for bids for shoreline stabilization on Normandy Pond. And this will be similar to what was done on Veterans Pond. They'll be grading the edge or shoreline for the entire pond and adding riprap, assuming that council approved the expenditure for Eagle Engineering to do the surveys and put together the bid package. We would then have to go out for bids, and the council would have to approve bids. So this is a several month process going through this whole thing, but we have started with the engineering to put together plans to renovate the shoreline on Normandy Pond. That doesn't directly weigh into the decision of what we do with the fishing, but it does impact Normandy Pond. One of the things that Jeremy stated, I think after the last meeting, or maybe it was after the meeting, was a concern about taxpayers. All residents are taxpayers, and this is a common area. And there may be concerns, whether it's legal or just the perception of closing the fishing status on that pond. Are there any other comments or thoughts on this issue that's been raised by the Rosenau?
Mayor, the one thing that years ago when we closed Versailles Pond, because it was literally in people's backyards on so many of the homes, we had to close it for everyone because there was no way to enforce. It either had to be no one got to fish it or everyone got to fish it. And if everyone got to fish it, then the people that lived around the pond needed to understand that there would be people out there, fishing. There is, based on all the information that we have, more room around Normandy Pond than there is around Versailles Pond. So I just wanted to provide that information.
We have another resident from Normandy Pond here this evening, Mr. Jennings. Do you have any comments you'd like to?
Yes, I voted against.
We can't hear him.
I voted against the fishing restriction. I don't think it's fair. I want residents to be able to fish.
Okay. Mr. Jennings stated that he would like to, let's continue to allow residents to fish on Normandy
I
Pond.
have been there for almost 2 years and never had an issue. I'm about the most prime location there is. No fence, and I've never had any issue.
Yeah, okay. He stated that he has not had any issues, and he's in approximately the center of Normandy Pond. John, I wanted to give you a chance to speak. If you had additional comments or thoughts.
Yeah, no, thank you all for your service. And no, we're kind of in the same boat as we were last month when we shared our thoughts and feelings on it. It's I understand that, like we said last time, if half the residents here on the lake want it, like Mr. Jennings said, the other half said, hey, let's close it to fishing. As we said before, we don't want it closed to our neighbors that enjoy fishing on our pond. Our concern was just, a continuous group of people coming and walking in our backyard. And the last piece I have on this is Versailles is probably got less room between the pond and the properties than one side of Normandy Pond. So the side opposite of us has a nice big area. The side on our side is actually pretty close to the property line, just like Versailles. So we kind of got both conditions. But that's really all I've got. I appreciate y'all's consideration, and hopefully you go, hey, let's close this to everybody but residents. But yeah, thank you very much for listening.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments from the commissioners? Your thoughts on this?
Well, this is Julian, and going back to the original email and information in the survey that was conducted, I think the survey went to 14 people, and out of that 14, 10 responded. And with that 10, it was 50% who were on the fence. But I look at the 4 who didn't respond, meaning they don't have passion to say one way or the other. So I look at the great percentage of participation overall, and then at best it's 50%, but then you have the other 4 who weren't called to action. So that weighs upon it. And then looking at the challenge of who can fish or not fish, very similar to what we talked about earlier at the playground. How do we put a sign up and then the enforcement behind it? So that'll be very challenging. And there hasn't been any issues that would say that it's a danger to the people who are fishing or the neighbors of the community. So without that data, it becomes even a bigger challenge to factor that into the 50-50 at best, and then the non-response of the other community members.
Hey, Jeremy or Will, any thoughts?
Sure, this is Will. I'm on the fence on this right now. I need more information. Like Sherry was saying, to me, it's the optics of it. It's either nobody fishes or everybody fishes. I don't think it's fair to have an in between. So any restriction, any legality behind it, if anything, the optics of it.
Okay, Jeremy, any thoughts besides taxpayers?
No, just the, last month we're going to spend, I can't remember the exact dollar, but tens of thousands of dollars we're fixing to spend to repair that pond. I just don't think it's feasible I don't think it's at all feasible to shut it down to just the residents. I personally couldn't entertain that. If we wanted to at a future date entertain completely shutting it down, if there's additional data, if there have been issues. I think Julian asked last month if there had been any calls to 911 about any of these issues, and that answer was no. So I would stand by my initial responses.
Okay. Well, the consensus I'm hearing is that we should leave for the time being, at least leave the fishing status on Normandy Pond as it is. John, I do want to thank you for the excellent job you did in presenting your proposal for this. I wish other people that had suggestions and comments would put together a similar effort that you put forth on this. So we do appreciate that. But we will be leaving the fishing status on Normandy Pond as it is for now.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you, John. Let's
Thank
move
you.
on. Yes. Somebody have a comment? Okay, moving on to landscaping. Lucas did cut in the swales on Russell Park in 6 different locations. The slide on the left is this was a day or two after some rain. You can see the sidewalk is still impassable. And the sidewalk on the left was within a day of a recent rain, and the water is draining off quite well. So people have been able to pass through there even immediately after a rain. We've gotten a lot of good feedback on that too. People really appreciated this drainage issue being taken care of in Russell Park. Lucas was not able to complete Founders Park at the same time. I talked to them while they were out here working, and they said they would need a bigger piece of equipment to do the work over in Founders Park, but that is still on their work schedule as it has been approved by Park and Rec and by council. There's really been no action taken on the Churchill entrance and the water that stands over in that cement pad in front of the bench. I did have a conversation. I did go over there with Lucas, and Lucas said they would have to survey to see if there would actually be enough slope over there. We have a surveyor in our room tonight, so maybe just kidding. I can ask you to go over and take a look at that. But so we still haven't done that. We still need to take a look at that and then determine whether we need to put a swale in over there, whether we need to tear out the concrete and just put in sod, and or re-pour that concrete pad to raise it up. So nothing has progressed on that since our last meeting. Lucas was able to plant the pugster butterfly bushes in the planters on the east corner of Matheson Square. It was brought to our attention by Angie, and Will confirmed it that these butterfly bushes probably were not planted deep enough, and Lucas has promised to take a look at that and correct them as necessary. Wanted you to take a look, especially on the left slide, the brickwork. This is one of the areas that I thought needed attention for pressure washing. Really has gotten moldy, mildew. And we also, Lucas was able to get the crepe myrtle planted over there on in front of the Lake Park Cafe in the town center. They were not able to get the crepe myrtle that you had recommended, so they tried to get something as close as possible, and they ended up with a Tuscarora crepe myrtle. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, but that's it looks very good right now. To me, it's a big improvement over there in the town center.
Mayor, was mulching part of that as well? Are they going to mulch it a little
You know,
bit?
they didn't put mulch there that I can see, but it was one of the areas going on to the next topic, which is mulch. That's one of the areas, both of those, both the planter and the where that tree was planted, are a couple areas that I definitely want Lucas to cover with additional mulch if assuming we approve the mulch as part of our discussion this evening. We have a little over $13,000 left in our budget for general mulch in the community. 240 yards of premium mulch at $50 a yard would be $12,000. That leaves a little in case we miss some certain areas. In the past, we've always held back a little bit for Veterans Pond to touch that up just before Memorial Day. So obviously 240 yards doesn't begin to cover all the needs for mulch in the community, but that's about all we have available in our budget right now. Some of the areas that I think are in need of mulch, especially are places where we replanted. We took out the knockout roses and planted new shrubs. So there's places in the Garden Pond, Balsam Pond, Bobby Lane Pond, especially that are in need of mulch. We got a quote a few months back from Lucas just to do Bobby Lane Pond. I think that alone, if they did a, thorough job of mulch over there, would be $18,000. So you can see that $12,000 or 240 yards doesn't begin to cover everything that's needed in the village, but that's what we've got to work with right now. Related to that is mulch in the cul-de-sacs. We've got $3,640 available for cul-de-sac improvements. It's really a little too late to be putting in new plants in these cul-de-sacs, so about the only thing that we can do right now to improve the appearance of the cul-de-sac would be to refresh and add some mulch where needed. Looking for, well, first off, any comments and thoughts on the mulch, and then we'll be looking for motions to approve some mulch. Any comments or thoughts on adding mulch?
I have a question about what areas are priority for mulch. You mentioned replacing mulch over where we just planted all the new plants from the knockout roses or wherever we took out.
Right.
So what about mulch for like under the swings, along the walkway paths, beside sidewalks? I'm thinking of the swing at Russell Park, the swing at Veterans Pond, the sidewalks at Founders Park, the mulch along, what's the alley that goes from Conifer to Etheridge? Right there where those shrubs are.
Right, yeah. Okay.
Beside the mushroom trees,
Right.
that kind of area. So how do we prioritize? Are we just using up the 2021 budget mulch and then it'll replenish in July, or what's the priority for the 13K?
Okay, a couple things. One, we just approved earlier $2,000 for the playgrounds, which is a separate playground mulch, which will be, of course, going under the swings. And those
No, not swings on playgrounds, the wooden swings. The
I'm sorry, misunderstood. Well, we now have concrete pads there, but you're saying that, around the pads, there's a need for mulch?
I think it's pretty bare. It's pretty rock hard dirt. Maybe not, but just to kind of finish it off.
Mm-hmm.
And like some of the trail paths and stuff, like what do we freshen and spruce versus hold off and make a list?
Well, what I would ask you and any other commissioner is any area you feel is in need of mulch, let me know. And if we approve this amount, we will then present that to Lucas and say, okay, we would like to spread in as many of these areas as 240 yards of mulch reaches. And where it doesn't reach, then that's something that goes into next year's budget, and we can do, work on those next fall.
Okay.
So yeah, definitely give me your recommendations, Angie, as well as any other commissioner. If you know areas that are getting bare, let's try and address as many as we can with this amount of mulch. So at this point, looking for just the general mulch, a motion to approve $12,000 for 240 yards of premium hardwood mulch.
This is Will. I'll make a motion.
Okay, Will has made the motion. Is there a second?
Jeremy, I'll second the motion.
Okay, any further discussion? And this obviously will have to go to council. All those in favor of the motion indicate by stating your name and A or nay.
Will, aye.
Jeremy, aye.
Julian, aye.
Okay, the motion is carried. Then as a separate item, let's take up the discussion of the cul-de-sacs. As I said, we've got $3,640 still available for cul-de-sac improvements. I don't know that we need all of that for just mulch. Off the top of my head, I'm thinking a couple $1,000s worth of mulch would probably go a long way for the cul-de-sacs. Any thoughts on that? Comments?
Will they,
I'll throw hat in the ring to take inventory of the cul-de-sacs again before we spend this amount. We've worked on, I want to say 6 to 8 cul-de-sacs, and 3 of those are now white rock, if my memory serves me correct.
I think
Will,
only one,
only one's rock?
yes.
yeah,
Okay, maybe take picture inventories and inventory again of the conditions of our cul-de-sacs to see where we are. In case we need something besides $3,000 worth of mulch.
That's fine. Everybody concur with that?
Yeah, this is Will. I can take a look at the cul-de-sac if you'd like me to. I know that the cul-de-sac here by my place, I know we'll have to do something with that river birch. Some
that's
point in
what I was
time.
gonna say. I know the cul-de-sac on Arthur, the river birch needs help. It needs to be
Good.
pruned.
Yeah, I can take a look at all of them and just kind of get a full view of how they all look like, and I'll make some recommendations from there. But I'll
Okay.
have some pictures.
Will, you're going to do that?
Yes, I'll take care of that.
Okay, if you could bring that to the next P&R meeting, then we could make a decision then. That'll be the end of April. That'll give us time to do whatever we need to do in the last 2 months of the year.
That's a 10-4.
Okay, thank you. Anything else that anybody would like to bring up this evening? Thank you all for your participation, and is there a motion to adjourn?
This is Will. I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Jeremy, I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by stating your name and A or nay.
This is Will. Aye.
Jeremy, aye.
Julian, I.
And the meeting is adjourned.